and I don't think his performances have been anywhere near the level that he's shown before. But Rio Hatate, when he came on in that second half, showed how good a footballer he is. I thought he was outstanding. Yes, even was the penalty kick there at the end, but in terms of the football, he got control of that game again, because the first half Rangers dominated that area. Celtic couldn't live with them, but the second half, the substitution that was made at half time, Rio Hatate coming on, changed the game.
Let's take a look then at Celtic's comeback. It started with Kieran Tierney's header, and we knew at this stage of the game the next goal was going to be crucial, and it was a lovely move from Celtic. Yeah, it was.
Tierney obviously came on, and Maida goes through the middle, and it was just something different. Maida continued to try and do the same thing time after time down the left-hand side. Sterling had his number all the first half, but Tierney, when he comes inside, creates the space. And Celtic then have the bodies, they can work it. That's a brilliant little cross from Negrin, I have to say, and a great header for Kieran Tierney. There was a couple of headers during the game, and bodies looking going down into the ground, down into the ground. It is textbook, back across the goalkeeper, down into the ground with a bit of power, and it's difficult then because people might look at it and say, you know, it's close to Jack Butland, but he can't adjust because he's probably planted on his left-hand side. Then it comes quite close to his body that it's then hard to get the scoop. And Celtic, you know, you could see that a goal in here would change it, because Rangers had it all their own way the first half, and Celtic did come out and play, you know, better in the second half, but without really creating that opportunity. But Kieran Tierney popping up with a vital goal.
I think in that as well, it's similar to the goal that Rangers lose last week against Livingston, the second one. Nico Raskin goes to, the Rangers are back for, I don't know if we can bring it back up. Rangers, when they're in that position, they have to, Fernandes and Raskin have to realise that they become the back four, because Romans is away the other side. Nico Raskin is now playing like a left back. You know, you look at it here, he gets tucked in there, he's fully aware of it there. He sees Kieran Tierney going inside him, and then he never gets back the other side of him. Yes, maybe if he's shouting Fernandes, if there's a communication there, he's got to get back in the other side of him there. Great ball from Negrin, but you can see Rangers are far too lopsided to this side. Romans has went and got pressure on the ball. Sterling's over, Suter's over, Fernandes is over. Nico Raskin then has to identify, I am the left back, and Kieran Tierney's the danger. The one behind him can't score, or if it gets to him, Nico Raskin can still get back there and get him. He cannot allow that one inside him. Fantastic ball.
Fernandes points to Romans to take Tierney, then Suter points to Fernandes to take Maida, instead of just going,
I'm going to do it myself. Yeah,
I'll go tight and I'll win it. You know, you would think, you look at some of Celtic's corners and free kicks, you think this has to be perfect here, because Rangers are so aggressive, so dominant in the air. You've got a ball off the back of the two aggressive centre backs, and Kieran Tierney's not known for his aerial prowess. To get in there and in between, again I say the pass was brilliant, but it's a case of pass the buck and let somebody, you get him here, you get him there, instead of somebody going, I'm going to take control of the situation here, I'm going to pick him up, you make sure you've got a man there, we squeeze the gaps and we make sure if the ball comes in then you get the clearance in. But
it was better from Celtic. There was a better zip about them, you know, quicker to the ball, you know, hungrier, and I don't know, maybe Rangers put a lot into that first half, and sometimes when you're on top you don't want half time to come, because you go down and then you got to try and raise up to that level again. It's pretty difficult to do. Celtic were much better from the start of the second half.
I asked you, and I quoted what Martin O'Neill said ahead of this game about it being a game more about the mind than the legs at times. Is that what you saw from Celtic?
100%.
That sort of mentality that they have, and that we've seen not to give in. We've seen it so many times.
The reason I talk about this, you know, Celtic need to get the next goal, because if it goes 2-1, all of a sudden the whole stadium changes, the atmosphere changes, and the fans get tense, they get nervous, and that's exactly what happened. Then all of a sudden it deflates you if you're Rangers, you know, and you're not as, you know, stepping on the things, you're not as physical, and all of a sudden the psychological shift changes totally into Celtic's favour. And they were good value for the draw today, second half.
And you were playing in teams where it's like you're on the ascendancy, and then all of a sudden it shifts. You drop 10, 15 yards as a defensive unit. That then holds the defence back in front of the midfield and top. The midfield and top of the defence. The strikers came back. There was a couple of times where it was far too easy, especially when, I don't know, it's a lot easier to stop Celtic building from the back when you've got two strikers. But there's sometimes you just need to drop back in and make Celtic make that extra pass. It didn't happen in the second half. I thought Celtic were excellent in the second half. They were really poor the first. Rangers are very good. You know, the first, but you know,
for Danny Rowley, he made the change.
He had to.
He brought on Diamandi.
He had to.
But then when you go deeper, you got to defend better, and they didn't. You know, and just the wave of pressure just kept coming at them, kept coming at them. probably didn't, but
They
subconsciously you do.
I know,
you
but
what I mean?
you have the momentum, you have the energy, you have, Mikey Moore was outstanding in the first half because he was picking up positions and making Celtic defend. When you drop off, you've given. What did you say before the game about the midfield? Okay, they don't have the legs and they struggled in the first half. I know Hatate comes on, but if you give them time and space, they'll get turned, and then they make the change and they go one striker. Diamande comes on. The amount of times that it comes to Hatate, who can then just reverse it other side. They get one pass or out, and then they can go on the other side. Didn't happen in the first half. And Rangers, it's not just this afternoon. It's been a theme for them where they go from being aggressive, they get the ball forward at speed. Spoke about Romans getting forward and supporting Moore, and they put you under pressure to then subconsciously, I think, they just drop off. And when you drop off to that level, it's very difficult to get it going. Yeah, you can bring subs on and try and bring a freshness, but you've already taken the backward step. More often than not, it's another one, because when that goal comes in, you can't then just go and lift the tempo. You're probably going to take another backward step and just hope you can see it out and maybe catch him on the break. And it has been an issue for Rangers this season.
Another thing, as we speak about Mikey Moore as well, when he's 20-30 yards further up the pitch, when he's on the ball for a period of time, it's towards the goal. All of a sudden, it was just a case of getting on the ball to get Rangers up the pitch. He can't do it all himself. So I think for Rangers, they really struggled that second half. And I mean, the two fullbacks had joy in the first half, not only in defensive unit, but running forward. Whereas when the substitutions were made, Tanecki, he really hugged that line, pulled Sterling out, and then there was gaps down the middle as well. All of a sudden, that Rangers back line became disjointed, and Celtic got a lot of joy. I mean, Nygren had a shot from the Hatate had a shot, Nygren had a shot for the edge of the box. That wasn't happening in the first half.
No.
That front line started to drag Rangers back line about, and they did have a lot of joy the second half. But you can't help but think Danny Rowe will be absolutely fuming that he gets himself into position at 2-0 at half time and coasting, and all of a sudden, and by the way, Celtic will leave the game. Martin O'Neill will be happy to leave with a point, but it does no team any favours.
No, and this is how Celtic got their point. It was kind of from the penalty spot. Let's talk about the penalty incident first. Is there any doubt in any of your minds that this is not a penalty
But
at
it's
all?
brilliant. It's brilliant from James Forrest. Brilliant wing play. Maeda, he's in the 6-yard box. It's a free head. He just peels off the back of Suter. That shouldn't really be happening from a Rangers point of view. He gets contact. It comes off Dujon Sterling's left arm, and it deflects the ball back on the ball. We all thought it was a penalty.
And then a great save, but I think the deflection from the arm of Sterling allows Butland to save it, but these two saves are outstanding.
The one thing he probably would be looking at, John Beattie, when he goes over to the monitor, is whether Butland's arm could still stop that ball before it goes over the line. But from your opinion, did he get it right when he went and looked at it again?
Well, it's a penalty kick. I mean, you look at Jack Butland might have saved it. We don't know, but I mean, it definitely hits.
I don't think he saved it.
It definitely hits Dujon Sterling's hand and his arm is out from his body. It's a penalty kick. Absolutely no complaints. Where Rangers will have complaints would be that Rio Hatate takes the penalty, Jack Butland saves it again, and then the two people are in there as Arojo and Rio Hatate not falling in. And if you go back on, see, even it's great movement from Maeda as well.
The two of them are beyond the front post.
He takes John Suter beyond the front post and then gets away 2 or 3 yards to get the header as well. I mean, it's brilliant from Maeda, but as a defensive unit again from Rangers, there's got to be questions asked.
He had another header earlier.
You look at it here. I get you're terrified of his pace. He goes. I mean, look, what's Fernandes doing? He's absolute no man's land there. He takes John Suter under the ball, but he's the only one that reacts. The rest are just flat-footed, standing there. Somebody else will do my job. Dujon Sterling comes in, and you can see there the arms outstretched. It's a handball. It's brilliant. I mean, it is brilliant from Maeda. But again, from Rangers' point of view, from defending, it's shocking again.
I know it hits his arm and it's a penalty, but Sterling is the only one that's reacting, and he's picking Hatate up, but senses the danger, and he's going to try and do something about it.
What a double save by
It's unbelievable. I mean, as Celtic, as we get a chance to see it, we knew it was going to be a penalty. The first thing you're thinking is, well, who's going to take it? Because they're not actually great from the penalty spot. Arne Engels, when he's fit, normally would take it. I would say, look, McCowan potentially a penalty taker, but I don't think the rest are convincing. You didn't fancy Hatate. Chris said he muttered it in commentary. You didn't fancy Hatate, but credit to him. Jack Butland, I mean, what else can he do? There's nothing else you can do.
I said Arojo was in there, same haircut.
Shocking. It was Maeda.
Even simple things like
he
that.
Ran for the other penalty box and still got there.
Even simple things like that. You know, if you're lining up, the fact that Maeda's came from, he's not even in the shot when it's Rangers. You've got to get your body in and protect and make him have to work before he gets in there. It's a tap in for him if Rio Hatate doesn't put it in. But from a defensive point of view, second half Rangers were all over the place.
You can see he's not lost any of the fire and passion for the game, Martin, particularly at the end there when he was getting involved. But you've been in dressing rooms with him. What do you think his demeanour and the way that he tried to get that message across at half-time, what would he have been like in that situation?
Well, he just said 20 years ago he'd have been turning paint off the wall, which he would have been.
Do you think he's mellowed?
Me and Mr. Sutton would have been getting it in the neck. Yeah, he's obviously mellowed, and he's got, you know, Sean and Mark and Stephen and Gavin all around him, the backroom staff as well. So he's maybe a little bit more less sort of reactive, and he's maybe thinking about things a little bit more. But whatever he did at half time, he got it bang on. You know, the substitutions and what he said to the players, or if there was any tactical tweaks involved, I'm not so sure there was, but whatever he did at half time, he got it bang on, because Celtic were so much better in the second half, so much freer in their play. You know, like he said, you know, they got the first and second balls, but they played. You know, they're actually brave on the ball and they played. And this was the little opening salvo from Hatate, who was very good in the game. You know, I'm not saying he was the whole difference in the second half, but he played well, which, you know, he should do. He's a top player. You know, and there need to be more of that from the leaders in the team. McGregor thought was good second half. You know, Maeda has a brilliant chance here. I thought he's had a poor season from what we know him to be. You know, last season they were going in, you know, and again he only played for a half.
Though, but even just Maeda, just his movements, he's occupying two centre backs there, Fernandes and Suter. So then it provides space for the midfielders, the wingers.
That was a big chance as well.
I thought he could have squared it at the time. I'm not so sure. But he scored.
It was good again. Though it's a good move. It was slicker for, you know, a lot of first-time passes, clean. You know, Dean Murray. You know, maybe that's another chance. But there's 16 attempts on goal in the second half. Second half alone at Ibrox, it shows how big they had to dig out a performance there, whereas in the first half they were miles off it.
Yeah, and 6 of those shots in the second half came from Rio Hatate, which is more than double any other Celtic player.
3 of them with a penalty.
Possibly, I didn't think of that. But
Definitely.
they were getting further and they were making the defence work and Jack Butland work.
Yeah, but Ellie, sometimes in football the hardest thing is to keep it simple. You know, and as Neil touched on there, it wasn't if Rio Hatate was getting on the ball and driving forward and committing. He was actually just moving. It was in an area where, you know, the Celtic players, whether it was the centre backs, whether it was his other midfielders, whether it was Tanecki came off a side, they could play it into him. He'd like to play. That then allowed Negrin to get further forward. It allowed Maeda to play on the shoulder. Rangers, I thought,